Hello and welcome back to the Football Terrace. Thank you very much for tuning in this evening. Do me a big favor, smash the like button right now. Hit it. I'm waiting for you. Give it a slap. Also, subscribe if you're not a subscriber of the channel as well. We are closing in on 160,000 subscribers, and that in itself is amazing. You know, 2 or 3 years ago, sitting there on 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers, would never in my wildest dreams would have imagined having, more than double the capacity of Old Trafford subscribing to my channel, which is absolutely off the charts for someone like myself. It really is humbling every day. So thank you for doing that. Let me know where you were tuning in from as well. We did it yesterday. It was so interesting to see all the different countries, cities that people were watching from. Let us know in the live comments and also in the comments below as well. It's really good to see. We're here to talk Jadon Sancho primarily and then move on from there. I've had some information sent through to me a couple of days ago. I then reached out to a couple of journalists that we know we've had on the show and that we're connected with to try and verify this. Interesting developments in relation to Jadon Sancho. I think some fairly big updates around it as well. One big update came out of the Manchester Evening News today that says United are still prioritizing a move for Borussia Dortmund's Jadon Sancho. The club are open to signing a left back, another forward and midfielder. However, Jadon Sancho remains and is still the priority for Manchester United to get over the line. Remember the update we gave last week? That was all about there being a rumor that Man United and Dortmund had come to a financial arrangement. That Man United and Dortmund had said, okay, if you pay £85 million plus 25 million in installments over the course of a 2 to 3 year period, we will agree to a deal. The rumors were that Dortmund wanted time to go and find a replacement. And what I was told yesterday, and I'm only reporting you what I've been told. I personally cannot go out and clarify this because I have no connection at Dortmund whatsoever, is that Dortmund are now moving into advanced conversations with a potential replacement. An individual that used to play for Chelsea, Jeremy Boga, is reportedly the replacement, or is going to be the replacement of Jadon Sancho at Borussia Dortmund. And as ever, when it comes to sharing this kind of information, if it comes true, I'll praise the source. If it doesn't happen and it turns out to be complete nonsense, in future, I won't listen to that individual. But that is what is being said. Someone here says, Mark Goldbridge said, according to his trusted source, United are backing off the deal. What, are backing off the deal for Jadon Sancho? And do you know what? If that's what Goldbridge has been told, I respect that. I truly respect it. You know, none of the credibles have said we're backing away. Jan, Christian Falk, Fabrizio Romano, as an example. You know, Jamie Jackson, one of the most credible journalists in the UK out there, has said that Sancho wants to move. Dortmund want the move. United want the move. There is no signs. The Manchester Evening News today reported exactly the same thing, that that Manchester United still want Jadon Sancho and they're still prioritizing him. And there are many others. I mean, even the @InTheKnow_Premier League, who's been right about many, many things this summer, has said, on Sancho, just wait. It'll be worth it. Patience is key. You've got man like Saeed, my brother. I know we clash quite a lot on socials. He has said that he's been told it's the 16th. Now, I don't know who's told him this. To believe that it's over, it's done, then it's what? Someone says Goldbridge hasn't said that. Oh, fair enough. I'm not claiming Goldbridge has or hasn't. I'm just reading out comments here. Goldbridge didn't say that. He just said reported is what's being reported by the media. By the way, that's exactly what Goldbridge does, the same as we do here. We just report on what the media is telling us. It's as simple and it's as straightforward as that. But in relation to Jadon Sancho, what we were told last week is that Dortmund and United have a gentleman's agreement. They've come to an arrangement before an official bid is made. Dortmund want time to find their replacement. What I was informed, I have reached out to 2 journalists who said they've heard similar rumors. That's all they have said to me on this, is that Manchester United are looking to bring in Jeremy Boga, the ex-Chelsea player. I think he's at, why do I think he's at Marseille? No, he's not at Marseille. He was at Rennes. He's now currently playing in Serie A for a team whose name I have no idea how to pronounce. But there we go. Reportedly, he is going to be the replacement. 11 goals scored this season by him. I don't know much about him. Maybe some of the Chelsea viewers that we have, and we have thousands of them that watch us, may know a little bit more about this individual. Lots of people here saying, no, Goldbridge didn't say that. Cool. Remember, I didn't claim Goldbridge said anything. I'd read in a comment. That's cool. It's been addressed now. What I'm going to wait for in the comments is that you've all understood that. Can you let me know that you understood what I said? Someone here said Twitter is the most reliable source. No. I need you to confirm the Goldbridge thing, please. There we go. A few people saying Goldbridge has just tweeted something. Let me go and check. Let me just go and check. Unless you guys are pulling the wool over my eyes somewhat. Let me go and have a little look. Has he just tweeted? Who's he tweeted? When? Oh, he says here, it goes, just heard from someone I trust that the Sancho deal won't come and United will do a loan deal instead. I must add, it's only an option, and I know United are still negotiating. So that's actually what he said. That's actually what he's... And is that the actual Mark Goldbridge account? Here it is. That's the actual quote. And again, that's what's happening with this situation. There's lots of different theories, lots of different views coming from different people in relation to whether or not he's coming in. And only time will tell. And that's the point of the United stand. It's the point of our community, is to see these rumors and to talk about them. When football starts and there's no transfer rumors, the same basis exists. When, you know, like when Man United don't win a game, we sit there and give our opinions as to why we don't think we won. Doesn't mean we're right. We might read a journalist's opinion. Oh, Rashford's not playing well because he's focusing too much on feeding kids. Some of you are going to believe that. Some of you won't. If Pogba didn't dance so much, we'd win more games. Some of you believe that. Some of you don't. The premise is the same as the transfers. We read a story, we see an opinion, we hear some information, and we formulate opinion on it based on what we also see. It's the same difference. That's what we're here for. We're a community to talk the game. Do me a big favor. Smash the like button. Hit the share button as well. It's very, very important that we do that. Super chat here from Fuzi, who says, do you see us buying any defender or Jadon Sancho is the priority for the club? I do see a defender. I think one of Alex Telles or Sergio Reguilon, I'm more leaning towards Reguilon, will become a Manchester United player. I am personally am fairly confident of that deal happening and that deal going through. Kai here says Simon Stone spoke to one club official who says apart from the clubs with mega rich ownership and previously agreed deals, hardly any business is being done in the transfer market. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true and whatnot. But when Simon Stone says that, that makes me think something's going to happen because they always play it down. The connected journalists, by the way, every club has connected journalists who will play stories down and will push things in their favor. That's a great story to put out because if the deal doesn't then happen, it's quite easy for the football club to go, well, we told you. We briefed our trusted press sources. We said that the deal wouldn't happen because it was too inflated. You know, so I'm not panicking about any of this right now. I still believe Jadon Sancho will happen this summer. Man United have the cash reserves to get it done. Remember that most of these deals are not paid off instantly. United have the ability because we've already done it. We've taken out a big piece of lending and you just write it off over a small, it's not like a big overdraft we've taken. You pay the cash and then you pay the overdraft off slowly each year in the same way that you would pay the installments. It's very, very doable for Manchester United Football Club. Terry, can you invite Mark on to debate around the Sancho deal, please? I can. I know what the answer from Mark will be, but there we go. Sean Williams here says the Premier League in the no account said it's done. Dortmund just waiting to get a replacement. There for me, it's done. He has been eerily accurate this window. He's been exceedingly accurate. There's no doubt about it. And you know, I tweeted him about the. He's the third person I messaged about the Jeremy Bogar situation. I said, have you heard anything about this? And he said, yes, I have. You'll see more news about it in the coming days. So let's wait and see. I mean, he was the individual that said that, you know, he was the guy that broke the news about Donny van der Beek and got called a liar for it. He was the guy that spoke about, one of the first people that spoke about, actually, it's just weird, actually. So someone reached out to me who works at the Telegraph and gave me information about the payment structure. And this is someone I know personally and trust them, and they told me about this. And then I find out that 2 days earlier, this same guy tweeted relatively the same information. So I don't know. I don't know who knows what. I don't know how Fabrizio knows what he does. I don't know who Mark's contacts are. I don't know who Simon Stone's contacts are. My job is just to report to you what I see and think and feel. And the people that get a lot of things right, I think yesterday in the morning, the In the Know account tweeted about the Paris Saint-Germain goalkeeper going to Fulham on loan. Got ripped to pieces in the replies. 8 hours later, I think Sky and some of the mainstream started reporting on it. And I'm like, well, he ain't just guessing those things. But we'll see. We'll see how these things turn out over the course of time. Make sure you're smashing that like button for us. The Skype lines are open if you want to call the show. Please feel free to do that. Do some more of your comments. So Monsar Ahmed, one of our members, says, Terry, what would be your dream player to move to United? What if Ronaldo came back? Would you be happy? I'd be happy if Cristiano Ronaldo came back. But my dream signing is Jadon Sancho. Kylian Mbappe would be another one. Marco Verratti, I think he's an absolutely wonderful player. I would like him at Man United. Virgil van Dijk, I would love at Manchester United. So there we go. We've got Cameron, one of our members, Cameron, on the show. Cameron, long time no speak. Ooh. Can you turn your...
Sorry.
That's cool, bro. How you doing, my friend?
Good, man. Good. Sorry, I haven't been able to get on because, time difference, NBA playoffs, fall sports. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on this Sancho situation? Because we've just got people from every which way saying it's over, it's finished, it may happen, it won't happen. What are you thinking and feeling?
This is what I think. I think at the end of the day, if United put 109 pounds in front of them and say all up front, it's done. It does seem. I had a weird theory too. It does seem like it's like Dortmund's. They're just going to say we want the money, and that's fair. It's up to them. But it does seem like there's my theory. This was my theory, and that's probably a dumb theory. But it was that instead of paying for him early in the window when our whole team was on break, not practicing, not training. Let him stay out, let him train, let him get game time, and let him keep his fitness, and then buy him. That was like one of my own theories. That's like I figured if I was somebody to do this deal, the time when we would have had to buy him, none of his teammates would even be around. So why bring him in and then pay for the wages and pay for everything through August if you don't have to? That's just kind of business sense in my mind. That was my own theory. It's probably dumb, but that's what I looked at it as. Is like if they do this deal in September. That's kind of what I was like, well, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's likely if we pay them a lot of this upfront cash, which I know we don't want to do, it's likely that we're going to use this cash reserve of funds that we've taken out as an overdraft to do it. Now, of course, you're going to be charged interest. Now, the interest rate is relatively low. It will be a few bips over base. However, I want to say base, I'm talking about UK base rate, or it might be from a European bank, which means it'll be over that. Anyway, there'll be over a base rate of sorts. Now, if United can hold off from a month of doing that, it's a month less interest they pay. From a business point of view, those decisions will be made that will best suit the club financially. And as I said before, until I see the credible say it's done, and that's the interesting thing. No matter what Dortmund have said, the likes of Christian Fuchs, Jan-Ugi Fjortov, and Fabrizio Romano, not once have any of them said the deal in itself is dead. They've said Dortmund don't want to sell. They've said Jadon Sancho is not forcing a move, but they've also said if Man United pay, that may change. We had Jamie Jackson on the show. Jamie Jackson, biographer of Ollie, very well connected at Man United, flies on their plane when they go on pre-season tour, sits there and chats to players, has clearly said that all three, and this guy isn't a transfer guru, so there's no mileage in it for him. He doesn't want to be famous for transfer news. All three parties want the deal to happen. It's just coming to an arrangement that everybody is happy with. Until I start seeing the credibles tell me, no, listen, this deal just cannot happen, won't happen, will not happen, it's dead. United have walked away. I'm just going to believe it's on the whole. That's just my view. I'm just going to believe that it can still happen. And that isn't delusion. That's just based on no one's telling me it's over. No one with any real credibility is saying it is done, it is over. It's mainly rival fans that keep saying it. And I'm not trusting it. I'm not trusting it.
I think there is a promise based on like what we're seeing with a lot of these players, where it's like Donny van de Beek was promised he'd be able to leave for X amount. Havertz was promised he'd be allowed to leave for X amount. I believe it's the same situation with Sancho. I believe he was promised he'll 100% get his move if United stump up the cash. And the thing is, what Dortmund has done is they put a pretty large prohibitive cost on him. And they're saying, like, listen, and let's be honest, we as United fans, we can't be mad at this strategy because we did it with Pogba.
Exactly.
We did the exact same thing with Pogba. Like we said, hey, Pogba, and any United fans, we're not disillusioned that Pogba would have been probably gone if COVID didn't happen. And they came up with 100 million that we said they had to pay up front, right? Like we told Pogba, like that's been everywhere. That's been reported. You've seen tons of people talk about it. So as United fans, we can't say, well, Dortmund can't put a prohibitive cost on somebody to try and keep their player. That's the best way to keep your talent, is by putting a cost that might price your rivals out. And unfortunately, like we did hit COVID because that hurt us too. It didn't just hurt us with Pogba, but it hurt us bringing in Sancho. So it's one of those interesting situations. Is like, are we going to, dig deep and reach into the coffers and say we can take on this cost and have the owners actually, be owners that want to win and say it's fine, we'll take this cost on. I hope there's none of this people talking about the optics of a deal like this during the pandemic. Like we're the richest club in the world.
I agree with you completely. I mean, there's a tweet just yesterday from Konstantin Akner, I think it's how it's pronounced. Says Man United have intensified their efforts to sign Jadon Sancho, but the situation has not changed. Dortmund plan to keep him for another season, and that's just the same. And that's my whole point about not thinking it's dead, because we get the updates and nothing's changed. And that tells me it's alive. Otherwise, they just say, listen, United have walked away because they know they can't get him. Why are we... Ollie isn't stupid enough to just chase something that isn't going to happen. We'd focus our attentions elsewhere. And we have started to... And I think as well, when you listen to other credible people, the fact United have pushed on very quickly with the Reguilon deal, the Tellus potential deal, Van der Beek tells you that there's almost something in the background that's they're happy with the Sancho situation. Let's move on and sort a few others first. Let's not allow ourselves to be pulled over the coals for those deals because people think we've got more money than we really have. We'll get them completed and then we'll go into that Jadon Sancho mix. I was told about 3 or 4 days ago, and again, I wasn't told this by somebody at Man United or at Dortmund. I just got told this by a fairly credible journalist that he said in and around the 14th is when they expect this deal to be complete and go through, and internationals all done and dusted as well. And that's just what they've said. And again, I take all these things I take them all at face value. And then the people that get them right, I go back to for more information. The people that get a lot of things wrong, I kind of not stop talking to, but if you get what I mean. I've got a few super chats here. The first one's from Josh, who says, Rene Mullenstein has just been appointed assistant of the Australian Socceroos national team. Nice to have a bit of the golden age of United gracing my national team. Rene Mullenstein's a really good coach. Another super chat here says, Terry, I heard we're in for Andy Carroll. What's your thoughts? I think he's a prolific striker. I mean, that's obviously, yeah, cool. I mean, you super chatted for that, bro, and I appreciate it and everything. But there we go. It is what it is.
And I've been meaning to, and I don't. If you want to continue talking, I've been meaning to kind of chat about the Reguilon and Tellus deals.
Go for it, bro. Go for it.
I've been able to get in on it because you know how I feel about Tellus. I've messaged you privately about like being linked with him, and I've said before, I looked like he would be my choice. I think based on what we're seeing, and I think you made a good point, is we can't make these deals happen too rapidly before we sign Sancho. It also puts if I'm Dortmund and you're like, oh, you just went and signed Van de Beek, you just went and signed Tellus, you just went and signed where's our money? Like, you're telling us you don't have money, but you're signing all these players. I think the left back deal is more important than a center back deal. And I've thought that for quite some time, ever since Shaw went down. I'm not a Shaw apologist. I'm not somebody who loves Shaw. Just like you, I say, like, I shouldn't look better than a guy who plays professional football. I've made those comments too. But if there's one thing we can't deny, I know a lot of people hate on him, is how much better Rashford plays when he's there. And we've seen this in the past with like Depay and other left-sided attackers. With Shaw, the one thing he does do, even though he's not a huge threat and the outputs aren't really there, he does at least bomb down that left-hand side and does at least try and throw crosses, and where somebody like Brandon Williams is more of that destroyer. Like, he'll make that big tackle to kind of change the game, but he doesn't have that quality. So this left back deal is extremely important in my mind to unlocking Rashford. And whether it's Reguilon or Tellus, I prefer Tellus because I think we're at a point where we have a lot of young players on the side. And somebody like Tellus, who's been a winner in Porto, who has that background. And I don't watch a lot of Portuguese football, but I've watched some clips, and I like to go take a look at scouting profiles. This man has a cross on him like no one can do. Like he's so accurate. So it's like you get him in, and there's something that I like to reference both sports every now and then. It's like something in American football called injury profile. We don't talk a lot about it in soccer or American or European football. But injury profile for Luke Shaw is probably one of the worst in the Premier Leagues. If you were to actually look at the player and his chances of potentially getting injured or re-injured or whatnot, Shaw's is off the chart. So we absolutely need a player who can step in and do exactly what's needed in that position more than anywhere on the pitch, in my opinion. Like other than the right-handed side of the attack, the left, we need to protect Rashford on the left. Like we can't now, because we're going to get Sancho in, we'll fix our balance. Well, then we lose that balance of the attack with Rashford, because when he doesn't have that person coming down the left flank, he cuts in all the time. He changes the way he plays because he tries to do too much. And that's like, to me, that's what I've been wanting to call in and talk about, how I believe like getting a Reguilon, who we saw bombing down the left-hand side, putting in crosses, freeing up his left-sided hacker, getting a Telles, one of those guys, that will drastically change.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, if we get Reguilon, I'm happy. We get Alex Telles. There's two elements, as you've mentioned. I think you pulled on both threads, and I think you're right. The age profile is perfect. I know that over the last 4 or 5 years, I'm pretty sure who's pushed this notion, and we won't go into that on this show, but signing players of 27 years old and above is no sell on value. This isn't good. That isn't good. Rare. But from my point of view, I feel like the Bruno deal worked massively because Bruno was of that mature age. And I feel like adding another couple of mature faces into the team will elevate Man United massively. Donny van der Beek is still fairly young at 23. He's a couple of years away from that point. You got Sancho that is still, in my view, going to come in who's 20 years of age. Adding a 27-year-old into that mix adds another man to the group of young men. And I think that element is really important. And then, as you say, the crossing ability. We had a United fan call up earlier who sort of said, like, how much is he really going to improve us more than Luke Shaw? And I'm thinking, listen, the guy's as a 10% better accuracy with these crosses, but he also attempts on average 2 more a game. So if he's got a 10% success, if his rate of completing his crosses 10% better, and he has double the amount of inputs of crosses per game is in comparison to Luke Shaw, there's going to be that in itself. Just one player is creating an additional, 20, 25 chances per season for us to score. Maybe even like more than we currently have now, right? Maybe even more, maybe 30, 40 extra chances per season. And that's just coming from him. And it gives us another outlet that's going to make our opponents fearful, and it just adds another string to our bow. So I think they're important. Reguilon could develop into that, but either way, I'm happy. But I think getting that mixture of experience and youth is very, very key, because if you have too many, and something that Gary Neville pulled up on, and I'm sure Ollie isn't building it because Gary Neville said it, but I'm sure Ollie's trying to build it this way because he remembers what it was like coming in at United in sort of 96, 97 and seeing it and being taught this by Fergie, that United's class of 92, if you look at the youth players that came through the Barcelona team, the Iniestas, the Busquets, the Messis, look who they first played with when they were introduced. They were playing with absolute stars. They were playing with experienced quality players. Would Gerard Piqué have developed in the same manner he did if he hadn't been playing alongside the likes of Puyol? If he'd been playing alongside, imagine Piqué went back to Barcelona and the best level they had of a defender was someone of Lindelof's level. Would he have developed? Would he have been coached? Would he have been nurtured? Would he have learned in exactly the same way? If Messi didn't have the likes of Ronaldinho and Xavi in that team and Eto'o, but instead he had, no disrespect, but he had Igalo, he had Dan James, and he had past his best Matic, would he still be the player he is today? There's always going to be a debate about that because it's hypothetical. We can't directly answer it, but my view would be no. And what I like about what Ollie's doing, he's adding in these Brunos, these hopefully someone like Telles. You've got Harry Maguire coming in. He's adding some experienced players into this mix, and even Igalo counts to an extent as a fourth choice player who can just nurture some of these youngsters coming through. We should want the youngsters to be out there, watch them flourish, watch them play, but they shouldn't be the people that we bank on to lead the club. The leaders need to be older. Yeah, exactly. Young in any profession, whether you're a football player or whether you work in, professional industry, asking 18 to 22-year-olds to be your leaders, I think is wrong, because, we all know this from a mental standpoint. Your frontal lobe doesn't form properly till you're 25 years of age. You're still, okay, legally you're an adult, but you don't fully develop and mature until you get, generally speaking, to around your mid to later 20s. And I think, as you say, putting all that pressure on Rashford, we need you to score, but we need you to be the talisman. We need you to be the leader. We need you to be the guy that gets us over the line. It's completely and utterly unfair to put that pressure around the neck of anyone of that age. When you look at their counterparts in years gone by, they had experience. Rooney and Ronaldo when they were coming through, although they were purchased. Look who they had with them. Van Nistelrooy, Scholes, Ryan Giggs, Gary Neville, Rio, to name just a few. So they had that kind of, that core around them to try the best, and it didn't always work, to keep their feet on the ground, to help them through the difficult moments. Imagine Rooney and Ronaldo came through, but all they had was David Bellion and Jemba and a lot of average players around them. It would have been harder for them. At 18, Rooney, you have to make us champions, rather than just, Rooney was one of many that could do it. And I think that's what Ollie's trying to rebuild. And again, I couldn't see the wood for the trees for many, many months. And I think we've got that. I think we're getting that down now, which is terribly important to have, because I think that area gets ignored a hell of a lot. And equally, of course, I want us to sign these big players, because it's exciting with what's going on in the Premier League. We've added Chief Ham to the call. Chief Ham, what you saying, bro?
Hi, Eric.
Hello, mate. What you saying?
So about, I think, why do we have, added Van de Beek and we are looking at a left back? Because I think Oli is going to play a diamond. What do you reckon?
He could do. So if he plays a diamond, who plays in the front two?
It's simple. Either, Martial has got to be in the squad, in the 11. It could be now Rashford or, Greenwood. It depends, rotation. Because, maybe Ed would have said to Solskjaer, okay, buddy, you need to settle. We can't get Sancho. Just do something. And Solskjaer would have said, okay, get me a midfielder and a better left back, because in a diamond, you need fullbacks that are more aggressive. I fear for it, because Sancho was our need. Now, because Donny van de Beek wasn't our primary target, and out of the blue, we signed Donny van de Beek. Why? It looks like, I could be wrong easily, but what do you reckon?
You want to take this one, Cam?
Yeah. So this whole notion that we didn't need to sign Donny, we came into the summer with 3 targets. It was very clear, 3 or 4 actually. It was right wing. It was another creative midfielder to bring some pressure off of our central midfielders, and then it was defense. Defense was always vague. Then defense could have meant the center back at this point or left back, which we've clearly shifted to left back, and we've made it clear that Upamecano's our guy for next year, and I respect that. Wait for him. We could not sit back and go into this year comfortable not have signed Donny van de Beek, in my opinion, or Jack Grealish, because at the end of the day, when we lost Pogba, look what happens. When Bruno gets, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm watching a game and Bruno's down for longer than 20 seconds, my heart drops, because I know what's going to happen to the team the moment he's not there. Now we have rotation. If we want to compete on all fronts like United is used to, we're not a team that throws away the FA Cup. We're not a team that throws away the League Cup. We don't go into these tournaments saying we don't need to win them. So we need to rotate. And if we don't have somebody like a Donny van de Beek who can come in and the drop-off isn't astronomical, like a Jesse Lingard or Pereira, and Lingard's okay, whatever. But like when we have to play a Pereira, we're basically putting together a championship side against teams that are far more superior. So I completely disagree when it comes to why did we sign Donny van de Beek. I'm happy that we were like, you know what, Sancho's taking a while. We need to go after our second highest priority, which was central midfield, in my opinion.
I know Donny van de Beek is a great player. I wanted us to sign Donny van de Beek over Jack Grealish, but it was out of the blue. And when you hear Solskjaer's press conference, he said, when you got great players, you got to fit them into the team. So now I think he's a bit inexperienced manager. He's going to say, we bought a player for 40 million. I am not going to keep him on the bench. What are we going to do?
I think there's a plan for this, though. And I think we may play in a diamond. We may play 4-3-3. We may play 4-2-3-1. I think Ollie is the kind of manager that likes to play again. He spent the majority of his career playing for a manager who, in the early years, was a 4-4-2 guy. He then moved to a 4-3-3. But where Fergie was a master and he won so much, is he was able to adapt. The way Man United played when we played Arsenal in Arsenal's heyday, we were a different Man United team to when we played the majority of our other games. We would adapt. And I think there are times where we'll use all three in a game of Bruno, Pogba, and Van der Beek through the middle. We saw a glimpse of that a little bit when we played against Sevilla, where we played with Pogba and Fred. You put Van der Beek into that Fred role, that could happen. There'll be other games where one of those players will start on the bench because a bit of rotation, a bit of fitness, and also how scary would it be? And I use Pogba as an example. How scary would it be I'm going to throw a team out there, for Brighton to visit Old Trafford? They're 1-0 down. There's 30 minutes to go, and Paul Pogba comes on. He's been rested today because he's played a lot of football, but Paul Pogba comes onto the pitch, or Van der Beek, or Bruno Fernandes, whichever one is rested in the first instance. If it's Pereira coming on, there's a different factor. Now, equally, like on your point of view, like you said there, I feel like Ollie has a plan and has had a plan all along about how he wants his team to look, how he wants his team to go. You can't always land the players you want in the order that you do it. And the prime example of that is, Klopp wanted Van Dijk in the summer, but got him in the January. He wanted Navigator a year earlier than he actually landed him. So sometimes you could, and they're heralded as being the best in the market, Liverpool, and they don't always pull off who they want exactly when they want or at any point. Remember, they wanted Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think they got him on deadline day, did they not? So all these clubs do business that protrude and take a little bit of time, or move into other windows. It's fairly normal, but we tend to ignore it with the teams that are successful on the pitch and only focus on the calamities that have been Man United for 7 years up to Ollie. I think he's got a plan. I think he knows who he wants. I think he has an idea of how he's going to play. I love a manager that has a different set. Like, the one thing I like about Pep, but frustrates me about Pep, and I think Pep can only do what he does if he has the best team in England, is where he pretty much plays one way consistently, always, but you have to have the most superior team out there to do it. Man United, no disrespect, we don't have the most superior team front to back at this moment in time. So there's going to be a need to adapt and change systems and styles depending whether we're home or away against particular teams. And I think Donny van der Beek is a perfect player for that. And by the way, some managers chop and change how they play even when they have the most superior teams, because Fergie did it for years. So if I see anybody moaning about, why do we change the way we play today? Listen, the guy you call God, the guy Sir Alex Ferguson, did it on a very, very, very regular basis, or that at least that was my interpretation of what he did. So I think Van der Beek is an amazing signing. I think it gives us depth and versatility beyond anything else that we've got, and we need another couple like that, in my view. And by the way, Sancho's versatile. Sancho can play left, can play right, can play central. And trust me, he won't just play on the right. There'll be some games where you're like, hang on, Sancho's starting on the left. Oh, hang on, we've gone 3-5-2, and Sancho's playing as a split centre forward. He's got versatility. Fluid football is key under Ollie. You were going to say something, Cam. Sorry, bro.
Yeah, I also think so. He said there's, I forget the guy on the calls, but you said like he's talked about playing them all together, or there's a chance. I've said this before, Terry, and on the call. I do believe when we're playing those lesser teams, all three of those midfielders should be on the field, without it being a diamond. Because at the end of the day, we as a club have gotten used to this weird. We need to break down teams. Like it's hard for us. Like we've had so much trauma breaking down teams before Bruno came. We forgot what it's like to play with the ball. Like we forgot that we do that quite well when we're at our best. Is we play with the ball, we play with possession. When you now have a dynamic midfielder like Donny van de Beek who can actually slide up into the 10 instead of Bruno, because what people don't understand is like I watched Bruno. I watched a little bit of Portuguese football and whatnot, and I watch a lot of scouting videos. Bruno plays deeper in other teams. For Portugal, he doesn't always play in the 10. He doesn't always play in the slot. Like he's comfortable playing further back in a 6 or 8 position, and he works hard. We've seen it ourselves. The man works hard on deep, whether he's a great defender or not, he works hard, and that's all you really need. As long as you have somebody like a Donny van Beek who's going to make those runs. And as Terry, you profiled it, and I've posted some videos. He is one of the best in the world at movement and getting into the box and looking to where the strikers are looking and getting behind them. Pogba, as we know, has one of the best ranges of passing in the entire world, plain and simple, maybe the best. So you have somebody now like Donny van de Beek. We're holding the ball. We're moving teams around. You have to think kind of like a Pep, but we're not. We're way more direct. the way that we'll play when we have those midfielders on is we don't need a defensive midfielder. We don't need that at all. We just need our back four to stay solid, and then those guys can just play with teams, doing the runs, pick them off, done. Like, we can end games early and rotate quickly with those three.
And that's very true. And I think people have got to learn that. Like, Pogba can play 2 central midfield positions. Bruno can play 2. Van der Beek can play 2. It's amazing. And there could be games, like sometimes you switch fullbacks or you switch wingers because they're not having I can't get past this left back. Rashford and Sancho switch sides. That way, you might trouble him, keep him guessing. We can do the same with our midfielders. It could be a case of, do you know what? Bruno's really struggling to find that killer pass today. Donny, can you move into that role? Bruno, you sit a little bit deeper. Or Pogba, can you go forward and do it? I think we have the ability to do that. There are some games where you're going to want to play a proper CDM and you'll give Matic that run. Mm-hmm. That also means we don't have to play Matic 2 games a week, which I don't think he's physically capable of doing as we refresh this squad and move forward. And yes, I'd love us to bring in Thomas Partey so we don't have that problem. I'd love Upamecano to come in as well. But maybe this year we sign, just say Reguilon, we sign Van der Beek, we sign Sancho, and next summer we bring in an Ndidi or a Thomas Partey and an Upamecano, and they're the final piece of the puzzle. I kind of look at it like this. Everybody's getting a little twisted because Chelsea are pulling off this madness, 8-9 players. But they didn't have a summer transfer window last year. So they're making up for lost time. Plus, they have an owner who is willing to pump hundreds of millions of pounds of his own cash into the club. If the Glazers were saying, listen, we're going to give you £300 million of our own cash, we're going to inject it into the club now, you can buy players, we could go out and sign all these people in one go. But we have to be a little more thrifty and a bit more frugal and a bit more sensible with our money. And it's about fans being patient. And that's the biggest problem that every single football club has in Europe at the moment, is there is a lack of patience. So we did a big video last night with Kieran Maguire, big up yourself, my friend, about why Liverpool are not spending. And listen, I still don't understand it fully because I'm not an accountant. I don't have the accounting skills in finance that they do. But it's a case of profitability's up. But the profitability is only there because they sold players. They break even. Liverpool pretty much break even though they're break even on everything else. Their cash levels are low because although they've made profitability and some of that has been cash that's come in, they've invested a lot of that improving medical facilities, improving the stadium as an example. But at the same time as their income growing, because they've become more successful, their expenditure has grown at almost the same rate. In fact, their salaries of players has grown at 89% versus a 73% growth in income as an organization. So essentially, on profitability, they're rich. On actual cash in the bank, they're in a medium position. And from a point of view of they're spending the majority of the turnover that's coming in. Liverpool are in a position where they have to sell before they can buy. And that's because of the model that Liverpool run. The only way Liverpool's model can change is for the income to continue to increase as a football club. That will start to happen with the new Nike deal. But the problem is the reason they dropped £90 million improving their stadium is on average, Man United were earning for every home game. They were pulling £2.5 million further in front of Liverpool in terms of wealth every home game because of the size of our crowds compared to theirs. The idea was Liverpool opened a brand new stadium. They dropped brand new stand, spend £90 million. And then what happens is you generate an extra £1.5, £2 million, £3 million per home game now. And that is cash. That's direct cash going into your business. And then you become cash rich. But you can't have these things overnight unless you have these billionaire owners. Now, the new Nike deal will generate more money because there's a 20% levy on the merchandise that's being purchased and bought. However, it takes time for that money and that cash to filter through. You don't just get it overnight. When around the world, you might sell, I'm just going to throw 10 million shirts out there. Do you realize how long it takes for that 10 million pounds to actually find its way into Liverpool's bank? It's not done overnight. You've got to understand that most stores, so people will pay by card. Most merchants won't get the money from the bank for a day or two. And then the merchants don't tend to pay the business that sold it for between anything. There's a deferment period of between 4 to 30 days until the businesses get their money. The business then gets their money. They may then make their suppliers wait anything from 30 to 90 days. The bigger companies, maybe even 180 days before they pay their supplier bills. It goes to the suppliers who then pay the manufacturers. They might make them wait 30 to up to 180 days. And then the manufacturers that are Nike, they're not going to wait. They're going to make Liverpool wait. That's the chain of money. So do you get where I'm coming from when I say this? We have to be patient. Things do not happen overnight unless you have owners like Man City, like Paris Saint-Germain, like Chelsea, even like Everton. And unfortunately, Liverpool and Man United simply don't have that. They simply don't. Liverpool financially will take 3 or 4 years for them to be as cash rich as a Manchester United. It's just going to take that long. And I think that's where we need to just start being so much more patient as football fans and understanding that, oh, but we made loads of profit. But is there actual cash in the business? And there may be, but what is it being reserved for? Because Liverpool have seen their wages increase in 3 years by nearly 90%. A lot of that cash is going to be needed to pay people's salaries, and they're going to need that money to pay for the old signings that are not paid off in lump sums. You are going to be paying Van Dijk. Van Dijk's been with you 2.5 years. That means you've got about another 2.5 years of paying Van Dijk's transfer fee plus all the others. And that's money that you have to pay to your secured creditors. And I know I'm going into a bit of a tangent here, but it feeds into be patient because you can't act fast like the other teams. Noah, thank you for your super chat, my friend. I'll post it again in case you missed it. There is a link in the comment section now for becoming a member of the Football Terrace, my bro. Thank you very much. Did that make sense what I was saying there boys?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think, and like yourself, I mean, I have a business background. I'm not a heavy in finance, but it's the same thing. Like, I'm fully with you on the net spend thing. I have a lot of friends who throw net spend at me like crazy. I'm like, guys, it's not like for like. It's not. It's like it can't. Like, it's an easy, simplified way to understand things, but a lot of people don't quite understand that. Like, when you're talking about a deal, and just to go kind of further on what you're saying about the intricacies of all these deals that happen, like, I work for an advertising company, and we had been using Mo Salah's likeness in some of our creative that we went out. His team had got wind of just part of what we were putting in there.
Yeah.
And they didn't see the whole thing. They didn't see like the entire execution. And they actually contacted the Premier League, who contacted being like, you can't use his likeness like this. We were able to, because they didn't realize it was like him along with 20 other players for the company that I worked for at the time, which was DAZN. And that goes into these deals and these conversations. So it's like, people don't get, like, when you're trying to work out a player and a contract and all this, for Jadon Sancho, it's going to be absolutely dizzying, all the different conversations, because he's a Nike athlete versus Adidas, because his likeness is now going to be used to pump Manchester United out in social media or whatnot. All of these things are layered on top of each other, and they all factor into the cost of the transfer. And then at the end of the day, you have to look at all the revenue that comes in from these different places when it comes to either our shirt deals or, of course, like now we don't have game day revenue and whatnot. It all factors in.
Exactly.
And fans just look at net spend. They're like, oh, well, we sold 2 players for 60 million. That means we have 60 million sitting in the bank. It's like, no, it doesn't. You don't know what they had to use the 60 million they got in for. We don't know if there's debt they had to then pay for. Right?
Exactly.
We're not going to sign. And I think people need to understand, when we sign Sancho, I hope to God our fans aren't begging for signings for the next 3 years, like 2-3 signings. We're going to get maybe one or two, like an Upamecano or something, for the next 2 or 3 years, because that's going to be all we can technically afford, unless we do what City does and destroy financial fair play. Going for a player like Sancho is something like, it's one of those final pieces of the deal. I don't want, like, so many people talk about, like, Chelsea, they keep going, they keep spending. It's like, not every team has an owner who can do that.
Exactly. And you want your club to be run properly from a financial standpoint, because that could kill you more. Owen Gordon, thank you for becoming a gold member of the Football Terrace. It means a great deal to us that you've done that, sir. Thank you so much for signing up. And like you say, you might get £60 million in for a player, but you don't get that money. It shows on your accounts as in straight away, but the physical cash, and cash is king for a business, doesn't always enter your account. You might be getting 12 million a year for 5 years. So, okay, we got an extra £12 million coming in. Now, what you also get is that player might have been on £20,000 a week in salary. So, okay, we save £20,000 a week. Well, you save £80,000 a month in terms of salary you're paying somebody. However, you might then go and buy the replacement. The replacement might cost you the same. The replacement might cost you £60 million, but his salary are twice as high. So your net spend isn't zero. Your net spend is higher than that in those myopic terms, because now your expenditure per month is gone up, because you're getting £12 million a year in for the player. You put £12 million a year going out for the new guy. This could be very basic in those terms, right? But you've got a guy going from 20 grand a week to say 60 grand a week. So you're actually £40,000 a week worse off. But fans see it as, oh, we broke even on that. We've still got the same amount of money to spend. You don't. You don't. Also, we may not be paying the agent fees on the sale going out. We might be paying the agent fees on the sale coming in. Oh, we've got another £4 million for the agent. So that's another £4 million that goes out. Yeah, there's a £2 million signing on fee. Oh, okay, £2 million signing on fee. Look at the situation with Aaron Ramsey. So when Aaron Ramsey joined Juve, everyone will say free transfer doesn't affect transfer net spend. Yeah, but he went in there on £450,000 a week or the equivalent. So he would never have got that. So suddenly he would probably have been offered a contract of about 180 grand a week, something like that, if they'd have purchased him. So 180 grand a week, say over a 12-month period, that would have been 9 million. What did he sign, a 5-year deal? So where he would have been paid 46 million pound over 5 years, essentially that's been now 450,000 times 52 times up by 5 years. That's 117 million pound contract, where normally it was going to be about 140 million. So that's 74 million pound extra that Juventus have had to pay out. So from a myopic point of view, it's, well, their net spend is neutral because they haven't spent any money to bring him in. But the contract is going to cost them 74 million pounds more over a 5-year period. But yet net spend doesn't take that into... Sorry?
This is such a good example because what we're seeing with Juventus right now is, and I don't know if you, because I know you don't track as much with European, they're this deal plus Ronaldo's wages put such a strain on their finances that they had to go do that weird deal for Pjanic and Arthur to bring their wages down. They paid more. Everybody was like, why are they making this deal? Especially Barca, that was dumb on their part, but they had to actually bring their wage bill down. And by bringing Arthur in, they were able to do that because that deal, those deals that are quote unquote free, take a massive strain on your
Well, I think Ronaldo signed, I think Ronaldo's on like 700 grand a week. Something along those lines, right? On a 3-year deal. So he came. So this is the mad. So, like for years, I used to get angry at the media for totaling the total cost of a player.
But I think Ronaldo's wages are paid by, the sponsors of Juve a bit, because they had a deal that they're going to pay some of the wages for Ronaldo and the transfer fees. Who are the sponsors of Juventus, the shirt sponsors?
I'm not too sure. And that's part of it. But equally, that means, so they might increase that, but still, that's still neutral for the club. And that's the point. We don't ever understand the intricacies of these things. So when we get angry as fans, but the irony is, so Ronaldo's contract is worth somewhere like 110 million pounds in its entirety. Plus they paid 100 million pounds for him. So as a commitment, and this is the point here, as a commitment, and this is what it goes down to, the total commitment for the player just on salary and transfer for Ronaldo over a 3-year period is 209 million pounds. But transfer net spend only shows 100 million going out. It's a complete and utter farce because it also doesn't include agent fees. It often doesn't include their image rights, doesn't include the legal costs that go with it, as an example. And that's one player. So they have to be able to balance that in the other direction. And teams and that's why I don't like the net spend talk. Journalists should stop using it. Even computer games should stop it. Now, computer games give you an idea where you can increase the amount of wages you can spend, but it lowers the amount of transfer you can spend. They should do it the other way. They should do it real. They should almost do it in basic accounting terms to teach people how it works, because a lot of the anger comes. I've had a lot of Liverpool fans, and I've banter Liverpool fans, about like, you're poor, you're broke, rare. But they're not. They just don't have a lot of cash because they built a new bloody stadium. And it was just bad luck for them. They built a new stadium and then no one can come. It's just one of them things. But yeah, the fans, again, what this all stems around is fans just have to, in my opinion, be more patient. And we've got Rack on the line now, a Liverpool fan, actually. What you saying, bro? Can you hear us, Rack? You're on mute, bro.
Better?
Perfect. There we go, mate. What you saying, my friend?
Yeah, I was just listening to the discussion. It's a very interesting one. Look, I'm not totally opposed to the whole net spend thing. Obviously, net spend in a single year is pretty useless because if you're going to look at things in narrow terms, then to look at it in even narrow terms in terms of time, like, it doesn't make any sense. The thing is, as fans, unless you're an accountant or unless you really go in depth, I don't essentially think it's the worst shorthand way of looking at things, because it does indicate what an ownership group is prepared to commit to a certain extent for, in terms of expenditure on players. Even if you look at gross spend, for example, gross spend can be misleading because, for example, you've got a situation with Alexis Sanchez and Mkhitaryan. That was a swap deal, right? But that's not. But if you look at your gross spend, that's zero gross spend. So there's no perfect scenario when you're looking at this. As a fan, I don't really have a problem if people looking at net spend. Obviously, at the end of the day, the biggest expenditure in football is salaries. So if you're not going to take that into account, then you're inevitably going to be, on the wrong path, if you like. At the end of the day, we have to, as fans, we try and put numbers to some of these things in a basic way. It's not accurate, and I don't think anyone should think about it as being accurate.
No, I agree with you on that. But the reason I pull on it so much is people put too much weight on it. So it's like Chelsea have spent, and I don't care what manager sanctioned the deals. So new players since the end of last season, although one of them was agreed in the January, it's circa £320 million. Yeah, but we sold this as well. I don't care what you've sold. You've added that amount of quality to an already brilliant team. I have an expectation around that. The same expectation, once a squad's settled. And what I mean by a squad settling is this: my expectation of Robertson at Liverpool is higher than that of when he joined for £8 million, because he's settled and he's now one of the best fullbacks on the planet. And that for me is imperative, and that for me is key. So there's an instant expectation of when money's spent. And then there's an additional expectation once a player's settled. And by the way, that works in reverse. If you sign a player for 50 mil and he's dog, your expectations of that player drift away over the course of time because they weren't worth the money. That's when you then focus on the club, who signed him, who sanctioned him, and whatnot. If you have too many duds that you're buying in comparison to positive signings, then you've got a major problem in that area. But there's too much weight. But we sold this guy for 100 mil. So if only actually spent 200 million, no, you haven't spent less money because you sold people. You've spent the same. Yes, you've sold people and you've brought an income in, but it's too myopic for me to care about it. And I think we get stuck in the weeds on these conversations. As I say, Liverpool have increased their wages by nearly 90%. That's it. That could be, and I don't know the total amount they spend on wage. I haven't looked into it. But the point being is that's the equivalent. That's million. So how much?
310 million a year. That was in our last accounts.
Additional.
Oh, additional, yeah. I'm not sure what the jump was up in the.
Well, if it's grown by 90%, that means it's almost grown by 100%, which is double. So you're looking at 130 to 140 million pounds worth of growth in annual salary. Do you get where I'm coming from? I think that's fair.
Yeah. I think that was over 3 years rather than just a single year. I can't remember exactly.
Okay, let's just say it's increased. If it's increased. If it's increased by 100 million a year,
the Champions League and the Premier League money might have helped a lot.
Yeah, no, but it did. But the point is, as you start to earn more as a club, your players get paid more because their agents make sure they do. It's just basic. It's one of the things I love about what I love about football is the fact that it's one of the only industries in the world where the actual workers, the actual money makers, are able to get such a good share of the income they help their businesses to generate. It's why I support how much they earn. Because if I could get that level of percentage of what I make my company, I'd only have to work for a couple of years and I could retire. But I don't. We get a minimal. I had friends that work in a private bank who get paid what you and I would think is a lot of money. But in comparison to what they actually bring in for the bank, they're actually the lowest paid people in the company from a cost to income ratio. So it's relative in terms of what you actually get paid. That's what I love. That's why I like how footballers get paid. But the point I think
you make a good point, Terry, about we try and put numbers to these things, but what you really want to talk about is quality, like net
exactly.
Quality. If there's a way of putting a measure on that, and people shorthand it into money. But money isn't quality. Like, for example, if you want to talk about the Coutinho money or the Coutinho deal, we got rid of a world-class, an ultra-high-quality player, and we brought in players with the money, of course, but we brought in players who, relatively speaking, the market perceived to have a lower quality.
Yes.
But then, as it transpired, they had equally high quality or higher quality.
And that's why I keep calling for this. Yes, as fans, we can put pressure on each other's clubs, right? And it's a bit of fun. But patience. Let's see. Like I said this about a year ago when it looked like Martial might leave. I said, I'll be angry that he leaves because I want him to stay. But let's wait and see what transpires. If the new guy that comes in kills it and he leaves and doesn't do so great, no one will care. Like Liverpool fans have stopped caring about Coutinho because of what you've gone on to do. The deal would seem horrible if you hadn't won the Champions League and League and he'd gone on to win what he'd done. It's what happens. By the way, Gary, thank you very much for becoming a gold member. And Mr. Stewart, thank you. 2 new gold members to the channel as well. That's amazing. 3 new gold members during this live stream and 2 new basic members. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it massively. But the point I was making is if Liverpool's wages have increased by 100 million a year for the next 5 years, because that's how long the new deals last. That's 500 million pounds of additional money outgoing over, say, a 5-year period. That's the equivalent of 2, 3, 4, 5, well, maybe 2 or 3 top level players in the modern day market. But that's the equivalent maybe of 5 or 6 signings. So you can't and this is why you got, I've said this before, Liverpool fans don't like it. If you buy cheap and turn your players into the best in the world, because you've seen something nobody else had, and I say cheap, 30 million is a lot of money, but you buy someone 30 million and turn them into one of the best in the world. If you want to keep them, you have to pay them the best in the world. But when then what you start paying them in bonuses, in salary, and in image rights, it's the equivalent of signing a top level player, because over a 5-year period, you're going to pay them 120, 130 million extra. And it's like, you have to do that. Otherwise, they leave and go elsewhere.
We signed Coutinho from Inter Milan reserves for, I can't remember if it was 8 million, 8.5 million,
7-8 million, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And then obviously he came in maybe on, I don't know, 30 grand a week, maybe something like that. By the time he left, he was on 150, nearly 200 grand a week, and he'd become a world-class player. And then Barcelona went and paid him whatever they paid him. So
exactly.
At the end of the day,
that was because of Neymar's price tag. His price tag went up.
Oh yeah, but his salary. I mean, if he would have gone, regardless of what he would have went for in terms of the transfer fee, I mean, he would have commanded that kind of high level.
And it's why Liverpool are struggling to sign now. It isn't because they've lost Paul. It isn't because people prefer Chelsea. It's because if Chelsea say, "Look, we're willing to pay you 300 grand a week," Liverpool are not in a position to start doing that, because it's likely that a couple of their stars have match clauses. So, okay, I'm the highest paid. If someone comes in on higher, my wages go up, or a percentage of my wages go up, or they start getting knocks on the door. Hang on a minute.
Correct me if I'm.
That's what Terry and Lampard had that for for 10 years at Chelsea, didn't they? Terry had a matching clause or something like that.
And this is for the guy. You're the Liverpool fan. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I actually like this system, and I've heard that you guys do this. Is that you have meetings with your big stars, basically, like at the end of every year, to see how they're feeling about their contracts, to see if they're actually interested in moving along, or moving on. And so if that's in place as well, and like we're saying, there's matched contracts and everything, if they're seeing, okay, I've been at Liverpool on 110, let's say Salah came in at that, let's just say, now as a Premier League winner, now as a Champions League winner, and he's seeing Havertz get signed in on 350 million, he wins 350 a week. He has every right to then go, either pay me that, or it's time to look for a new club that will pay me that, because I now have all these accolades. I am now one of the very best in the world at my position. I need to be paid as such. And I think that is a model that you guys have used to allow yourselves to get in front of offloading players and finding you, because then you could go, let's just say, and God forbid, we don't sign Sancho this year. God forbid. And then Liverpool comes in next year, sells, and this is my skip. This is my this is what keeps me up at night if we don't sign Sancho. Is Liverpool then comes in next year. They realize Salah or Mane can go to Real Madrid. Real Madrid's willing to pay Mane £300 a week because you know what? He's worth it. He's won it. Guess what? Okay, well, we can bring in Sancho, we can pay a fee, and then we can set his at 200K. It's like, I think that's what I think Liverpool seems to do with a lot of their big players, is they find that common ground. It's like, we either pay you or move you along and bring somebody else in and pay them less.
So it's a very mature way of, if you think about it, it's a very mature way of doing it, because look, I think one of the good things, and many Liverpool fans might hate me for saying this, but I think one of the good things that the club and the ownership have done is they haven't wedded themselves to any single player. Like, the saying, every player's got a price, or every player, is no player is indispensable. I think that's something that we've taken on board as a principle, but at the same time we deal with a certain maturity. So you're right. I think there was an article in The Athletic where they say they communicate quite closely with players and their representatives, and at the end of every year they want to see where they're at and say, look, how are you feeling? We'd like to keep you, or whatever the case may be. Are you interested in staying? And obviously these conversations maybe even don't happen like throughout the whole season. They may happen during the season as well. Yeah. And then as a player, you're also bought into the fact that, okay, look, the club want me to stay, but they're not going to keep me for any reason. If an opportunity comes up, then fine. And then as a club, you're also you're always doing the monitoring, and you always have the next.
Yeah, of course. And I think and these things are sensible, and it doesn't work out always. You always, you look at the Genie Wijnaldum deal. I'm sure they don't want they don't want it to be at this point, but sometimes these things protrude a bit and they happen. I think the global issues that happened this year have changed the forefront of many things. And like I said to a few Liverpool fans, when I removed the banter and I removed the jokes and the laughter, maybe if you don't buy anyone this year, it's because you're gearing up for something massive next year, and you might look back in a year's time when suddenly Kylian Mbappe is wearing a Liverpool shirt, and you might be thinking, I'm just throwing it out. I'm just throwing it out there, and you'd be like, I'm so glad we didn't buy. But imagine someone here, by the way, if you'd have signed Timo Werner last year, we wouldn't have had enough money to have done this. You'll be like, I'm so glad. And again, that's hindsight for you, though. But you only enjoy hindsight if you have patience in the first place. That's my view. But boys, I appreciate you all coming on and having your say, and everybody else that's tuned in today. Jordan Richardson here says Chelsea have 52 first-team players, according to Wikipedia. They do, and they loan out about 30 a year. They get on average between £2 and £5 million loan fee for each player, plus the salaries being paid. And none of that income is ever accumulated into their net spend because it's not a transfer, is it? That's why transfer net spend does not exist. Stop believing in it. Stop talking about it. Stop judging your team based on it. It's an absolute fallacy. An absolute fallacy. Until next time, take care of yourselves. God bless. We'll see you all soon.
Take care.